Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see, we're in the shop again. And today we'll be doing one of the last videos on the Corvette for this Getting Ready for Indy series. And what we'll be doing today is a nut and bolt check on the whole car. I'm mostly focused on the suspension stuff, the motor stuff, the trans. That stuff has been in there for years. I'm not really too worried about that. Mostly worried about the suspension stuff. And what we'll be focusing on right now is mostly the subframes, everything I can get to without having to take the wheels off, because it is like 23 degrees outside right now. And yeah, I don't want to be out here too long because it is freezing. So what you guys will see in my hand is just a simple list of all the parts on the car. So we got the front suspension, the rear suspension. Kind of just went into multiple different resources and pulled all of the numbers and typed everything out. So, you know, we got our cross member, trans mount, shock, upper and lower, you know, rear tie rods, sway bar mounts, caliper, upper and lower control arms. Same thing with the front, cross member, engine mounts, steering tie rod, upper lower control arms, shock, sway bar, and caliper. So yeah, basically we're just doing a nut and bolt check on everything because we want to make sure everything's going to be safe when we're going 100 plus miles an hour. I have no idea how fast we'll be going, but you know, the car does have 800 wheel. And since we have the car up in the air, we might as well go ahead and do that. And yeah, so let's just get under there, get started on the cross members and stuff. And the reason we're kind of focusing on the nut and bolt check is because I actually ran into a problem up here on the driver's front wheel. And what that was, it was actually a torn ball joint that I only replaced like 2 or 3 years ago. Guys, I haven't put any miles on the car, like probably less than 200 or 300 miles in a couple years. So, you know, this doesn't have a bunch of miles on it, and we shouldn't have a torn ball joint, but matter of fact, we did. And as you can see from the pictures here, I actually removed the whole steering knuckle, drop spindle, whatever you want, steering knuckle, whatever you want to call it. I actually replaced it with one that I had. I had a good one. It only had like 30,000 miles on it, and I just decided to replace that instead of having to deal with take that steering knuckle, try to put a new ball joint in it, put it all back together when I had a bolt-on solution ready to go. So I put that on up front, bolted everything back together, and we're good to go. All right, guys, the front engine mount is 18 millimeter, and it torques down to 37 foot-pounds. And also looking at the other bolts under here, we'll be able to do the rear of the subframe. Now the front, unfortunately, guys, it looks like we'd actually have to take the sway bar off. All right, so here is the rear of the cross member. It's 81 foot-pounds, and I think it's a 21 millimeter. Yeah, 21 millimeter, 81 foot-pounds. All right, guys, I actually am able to reach the nut for the cross member, and actually happened to fit right behind the aftermarket sway bar. So, hear that? 81 foot-pounds. So I actually am glad we are doing this. I found a loose nut and bolt on the front of the splitter up here, and yeah, that actually bolts to the radiator cradle. So 10 millimeter will get that tight. All right, guys, the lower control arm bolts are 125 foot-pounds. Now, guys, mind you, this is an aftermarket bolt. It's the camber and caster kit from After Dark Speed. That's what they call for. 125 foot-pounds, and it's 22 millimeter. And then the sway bar mount, I'm not sure you guys can see that, 13 millimeter, 43 foot-pounds. All right, guys, the back is pretty much going to be the same. The rear transmission mounts are 37 foot-pounds. The subframe bolts are going to be 81 foot-pounds, front and back. The front is going to be 125 foot-pounds because, again, we've got the After Dark Speed kit on there. And the back, I will have to look that up. But all right, so we can knock a few more off the list. We did the upper and lower sway bar mounts. We also did the lower control arm bolts. And actually, this is 125, not 107. We have the After Dark Speed kit on the back as well. So let's write that down. Dark Speed. All right, I think I forgot an E. That's all right though. But yeah, so we pretty much have over half of this done. For the rest of this, I think I'm basically just gonna have to take each wheel off and do it per corner. All right, guys, I just ended up finishing the front end nut and bolt check. Everything was pretty much good. The only thing I found a little loose were the caliper bolts for this front passenger side caliper. I think when I did the ZR1 brake swap, I didn't tighten it all the way down because that goes 129 foot-pounds. I probably did like 125. So yeah, just a little bit of a turn, everything tightened up. As far as the rest of the front suspension, everything was pretty much good. I did check the upper control arm bolts, those were 48 foot-pounds. Then the upper and lower shock bolts, the lower shock was 21 foot-pounds. So everything is pretty much good to go up front. And since we had the front end apart and while we were in there, I actually went ahead and put in a set of fog light delete plugs. You guys will see that here. There's a guy named Shane Greenwood. His company actually sells these, and he actually sells, I think there's fog delete plates that he 3D prints, as well as the electrical plug cap that we just showed you. And since we were in there, had everything apart, I put those out. I previously had those taped up. I think one was taped up and one was not. Not exactly sure why that was, but put those caps on there, we're good to go. All right, guys, we just finished up the last of the nut and bolt check on the back. The upper control arm is 81 foot-pounds, upper shock mount 22 foot-pounds, bottom shock mount 107 foot-pounds. Rear calipers are 129 foot-pounds, just like the front, and that's pretty much it. We pretty much covered the lower and everything else. Oh, and the rear tie rod is 80 foot-pounds. Remember, we have the After Dark speed kit, so it's got a little bit different torque setting. And now that the suspension is done, I do have one more project to do before we go, and that is a tow hook update. And so what we just picked up was another part from ZL1 Addons. This is actually their premium or stealth, I forget which name, of the front tow hook. There's a little bit of a conversion kit, as well as a camera mount. Now, the reason we're going to be converting this is two reasons. One is the camera mount that they had for the existing hook. Guys, it was, I don't want to call it garbage, but man, it was pretty bad. It was basically like a piece of plastic that kind of went through the hook, bolted top and bottom, and it just didn't look good. And I'm like, at 100+ miles an hour, I'm like, yeah, I don't really trust that thing. And this mount actually bolts to the side of the hook. So kind of wanted a solution where you could still use your tow hook. And with the older camera mount that they have, it basically disables your front tow hook because you've got a camera contraption bolted to it. So here is the new tow hook as well as the camera mount. Basically, you guys can see that this will bolt off to the side and you can still use your tow hook like I was saying. So, all right, guys, to take apart the tow hook to get the actual hook off the front of the car, it is a 3/8 hex. So you guys can see this is the existing tow hook that we had. I've had it for, I don't know, maybe a year and a half. Honestly, it's only been on the car for a couple weeks, but I'd reached out to ZL1 Addons and they said that the camera mount that we have would not work with the older hook. And then the other thing is we're also trading in a steel hook for an aluminum hook. So, you know, we'll lose a couple ounces there. Not that we're really worried about such a thing. But so this is basically the old versus the new, and we've got a little camera mount on top there. And the camera mount is actually designed for a GoPro. It's similar to what I have on my tripod here. I mean, I have to look for another one of these. I may have bought this on Amazon. I'm not 100% sure. Whatever the standard bolt size for a camera tripod is, we'll have to find a bolt that size, as well as pick up another one of these camera mounts. And we'll be able to bolt a GoPro to the front of our car. All right, guys, here is the new tow hook. Everything's installed. It is the aluminum one like we were showing earlier. All you really need to do to put this in is tighten it down with a 3/8 hex. Tighten that down, or good to go. I might actually move the hook, the red hook, down and keep the camera pointed up and then retighten it. That might be the best way to utilize this tow hook. Plus, you know, when I'm walking here in front of the car, it's one less thing to run into. While we're knocking out the last of the Corvette projects, I am going to be bolting on the belly pan. We have not had this out in the car in forever. It's probably been a year, maybe even 2 years since I took that off. And I'm not even sure why I took it off, but since we're trying to wrap up stuff, let's go ahead, get this installed. And I ordered this from Koza Motorsports, K-O-Z-A, might be butchering that last name, but Koza or Koza Motorsports, out of Illinois, northern Illinois area. All right, guys, we got the belly pan installed, and I don't think the half-mile events will require this, but, you know, if things ever do let go when you are going that fast, having a belly pan isn't a bad idea. And, yeah, surprisingly, it clears everything still, so it clears the transmission lines, it clears the 2-inch headers. That is the belly pan fully installed, and one more step of getting ready to go. The next task that we're gonna do is actually cleaning out the fuel filter for the A&A fuel pump kit. You guys will remember we have this big dual Holley external pump with this Earls Fuel Filter. And I'll just be straight up, guys, I haven't cleaned that since I installed this kit, probably 4 or 5 years ago. It's been a while. And what we're gonna be doing is taking apart the Earls Fuel Filter. It is serviceable, and we're using these new aluminum crush sleeves. Part number is 177012 ERL. It's a -12 crush washer. And basically we'll be taking this fuel filter in half, pulling the, I think it's a stainless steel mesh, cleaning it out with some brake cleaner, and then putting it back together, and that should be about it. So as you guys can see, we've already drained the gas, and yeah, that was kind of messy, but not that messy. I didn't get any on myself. Maybe got a little bit on the floor, but you know, it is what it is. So we caught all the gas that we could. All right, guys, after using a ridiculously oversized wrench, I was able to get this apart. And really the only thing you need to clean is going to be the side with the arrow on. I wasn't sure which way we needed to twist this off of, but I did see the filter was down at this end. And how this is held together is basically you have this O-ring, the little screen, and then you have your end cap, and you got a washer in between it. So yeah, nothing really too complex here. This is the little screen that we need to clean out, and I have metal and stuff on my gloves, so I'm actually going to swap out gloves and then clean it. But yeah, that's pretty much all that's filtering into your fuel filter is this little it's either 85 or 100 micron screen. So, all right, guys, I cleaned out that fuel filter. I just used some carburetor cleaner. I was going to use some brake cleaner, but I actually was really low, so I was like, yeah, I don't want to run out. But use some carburetor cleaner on that. I just pretty much sprayed all the parts inside of here, cleaned everything off, blew everything out, and that was pretty much it. The fuel filter had a couple specks of stuff on it, but nothing real too crazy. So could I cancel the order for the other one? Yeah, I probably could, but since we have already got it, I really did want to have a backup anyway, so we're just gonna keep this in a Ziploc and have a good backup for whenever we need it. All right, guys, the replacement fuel filter from Holley came in. Part number is 230210 ERL. So yes, Holley owns Earls. I think they've owned them for a while, you know, probably been a long time. And yeah, so let's go ahead, we'll get this installed, we'll get the lines tightened up, and then I'm gonna pressure test everything. I'm gonna use my compressed air, put that into the sensor, the Hobbs switch for the fuel system, and put some air pressure down there and make sure the whole system's flowing and that there are no leaks. All right, guys, we got the new fuel filter in there. We just used our Motion Raceworks set, awesome adjustable Allen wrench. We got that new fuel filter in there, tighten everything down. We should be good to go. And I did put the car into accessory mode, blew some air into the LS9 LSA billet adapter block up there, put some compressor. I think I turned the air compressor up to 30 psi. Ran that for like 10 to 12 seconds, did that a number of times, and everything was working just fine. You know, I heard the pumps come on, heard the fuel going through, and I heard the regulator opening up. So, and I think we could finally wrap up this fuel system update. It's actually been just about 2 weeks. First, those aluminum shims that I needed for the old fuel filter, that took like a week to get, and then when I decided to order a new fuel filter, that took yet another week to get in. And so yeah, the car's kind of been sitting here on the lift, you know, kind of all torn apart, but that's all right, because I've actually been waiting for one last project to come in. All right, guys, we're gonna be working on the last part of this video. You guys will know that we've done a bunch of stuff on the Corvette over the last, I think we covered 4 projects in today's video. But this last part, I ordered this back in mid-December. It is now middle of February, so it's been 6 or 7 weeks, and the part finally arrived. And what that is going to be a set of transmission mounts from Hinson Motorsports. Now, when I ordered these back in December, the website mentioned nothing of them being out of stock. It looked like they were ready to go, and I ordered it. Didn't hear anything for a couple weeks, and I try not to bother people. You know, I don't want to be a Karen or Kyle or whatever, but, you know, I gave him a couple weeks, didn't hear anything. About a month rolled by, and I finally sent an email like, hey, I ordered these like 3 or 4 weeks ago. What's the update on these? And they said, oh, well, we just sold the last of them. We have to wait for the next production run to get made. I'm like, okay, well, when are you expecting that to take? And I got the typical, oh, it should be 1 or 2 more weeks. So I gave them 1 or 2 more weeks, sent them another email. Hey, what's the update on the transmission mounts? Are they ready to go? And again, said, oh, we're running behind. It's going to be another 1 or 2 weeks. So finally, after like week 6 or 7, whatever it was, finally got tracking notification that, you know, I got a USPS tracking number out of a port in Oregon. I forgot, Coos Bay, Oregon. And I'm like, wait, this company's based out of Arkansas. Why would they be shipping something from Oregon? So I have a theory that they ran out of these mounts. They had to get made. I think they're made overseas, probably China. They're shipped back to the United States, and I got a tracking number as soon as it hit the port. And I tracked it from Oregon, you know, it went up to Portland, and then it really didn't update for like 3 or 4 days, and then finally it showed up in Charlotte. Another week's worth of shipping. So 7 going on 8 weeks now, and finally, I think we can wrap up today's video, is to install our polyurethane stainless steel mount. You guys will remember that we actually have installed another set of transmission mounts in the car, and that was from a company called Torque Solutions. And what their mount style is, it's basically a billet aluminum block with a similar stainless steel ending on it. And then you guys can see there's a very little bit of polyurethane there. So I bought the whole set, so I installed the rear. But like, since these are very solid construction, it's billet aluminum with a little poly bushing in it. These things rattle like crazy. The front mounts don't do that. The front mounts are Hinson Motorsports. They fit just fine. They're definitely more solid and a little bit more rattly than the factory rubber bushings. But compared to this, you know, billet aluminum mount, they rattle way less. And since we're taking the car apart, and I'm kind of like, you know, I kind of want to decrease the NVH. And one way to do that is to get rid of these Torque Solution mounts and go ahead and install these. All right, guys, you'll see the new transmission mounts. This is the passenger side. Driver's side is over there back behind the brace. And yeah, both of these mounts went in relatively easy. All I had to do was take off the bottom nuts here for the mounts. There are also some nuts at the very top. You guys can see that in the right hand of the camera. I had to take those off. The bottom is a 18 millimeter. The top is going to be a 15 millimeter. Take all that off. And then I basically took the 21 millimeter cross member bolts. There's one right here. There's 4 of them. I basically loosened them up and drew them down as far as I could. I actually removed the front bolts because I needed to get this whole cross member to swing down and get the old mounts out of the way. And then I took, you guys can see the jack here, put a piece of wood up underneath the transmission, and we simply just pushed that up. And we got probably, I don't know, inch, 3/4 of an inch to an inch above where the transmission normally sits. And we were able to get everything out of the way. So that gave us enough room to pop the old mount out, put the new one in. All right, guys, we have finished up with the new transmission mounts from Hinson Motorsports, and we tightened everything down with 37 foot-pounds, top and bottom, and the subframe bolts, after I kind of wiggled everything back in place, 81 foot-pounds. I will say this, I was a little more cognizant of putting the subframe, try to getting it straight, so when I did put it in, I tightened the front bolts first because the back didn't really have that much slop, but the front did move around a little bit. So I kind of grabbed the subframe, actually by the rear sway bar, pulled it forward, tightened it down, and over on the driver's side we did the same thing, grabbed the rear sway bar, pulled it forward, tightened it down, then I did the bottom transmission bolts, and we were good to go. And so yeah, that's pretty much gonna be it for the transmission mount update. The only other things that we've really done kind of off camera is I put some Laminex clear bra on the front Morimoto headlight, and I also put some Expel clear bra on the top of the Kong intake because that is really close to the hood, and I know it makes a little bit of an impact, and I've had painter's tape on there for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years now. So I just grabbed a small kit from Amazon of Expel. We got that put on. That took 3 or 4 tries, and then the headlights, we just ended up grabbing the kit from Laminex, like we said, put that on there. It actually doesn't look too bad. When I first put that on there, it was super cloudy, had a lot of, it didn't look like garbage, but just bubbles in it. And the passenger side has cleared up a lot more. The driver's side, it's got some crap on the top of it. I think that's mostly, you guys can see this dirt on the fender. I think there might be some dirt still on the top of it, but yeah, actually this is cleaned up a lot better than I thought it was going to. And yeah, so that's kind of a finished shot of the, you know, intake of the headlights. The car is super dirty. I'm sure you guys can see this, but yeah, it is super dirty. And so yeah, if it ever decides to stop raining, I think we're on day 5 or 6 straight rain, I will get the car cleaned up, we'll get it backed out, and we'll do some beauty shots of the new wheels and just kind of showing the overall car. So Alright guys, you just saw us do the B-roll footage with some of the beauty shots, as well as backing the car out. You can see it is finally off of the lift after I think we started this project in November, December-ish. Yeah, so it's been about 2.5 months. I wanted to get it off the lift, you know, showing out the new wheels, because I owe some pictures to Joe Garofalo over at St. Paul Speed. And I'll probably be using those very same pictures for some Corvette merchandise that you guys should have seen a while ago. I know I haven't mentioned it, but I'm working with the same guy that helped me do the logo for the Silverado. So I'll reach out to him, get that stuff made up, and it should be available for you guys down below. So yeah, initial driving experience for the 50 feet that we drove it. First of all, the brake modifications that we did with the brake booster, that has instantly fixed the non-working brakes that we were talking about, you guys, earlier in the previous videos. Basically, the fact that, you know, I'd hit the brake, it felt kind of like there's nothing there, and then it would work. There was like a 1 or 2 millisecond delay. That is 100% gone. When I hit the start button, put my foot on the brake pedal, I can instantly feel that there's brake pressure there. So if you guys do the carbon ceramic brake swap on a 2005 to 2008 and a half, 2009, make sure you guys have the newest brake booster, because that brake booster and the new master cylinder worked 100% with the new brakes. And like I said, it was most noticeable at low speed driving, you know, backing in and out of the driveway, getting out of the garage. As for any new problems or things that we need to address, I do have a check engine light. I'm not really too worried about it because we have unplugged a bunch of stuff. Maybe I forgot to plug in an O2 sensor. The map sensor we did get plugged in. Maybe something has been removed and unplugged and we need to reset it. I'll take a look at that off camera. The second thing is we're going to do a new alignment on the back, because when I did put the new transmission mounts in, I did have to lower the rear subframe. And I want to make sure that that thing is 100% straight when we're going 150, 160 miles an hour down that runway in Indiana. So I'm going to do a alignment off camera. You guys can actually see the toe plates up underneath my bench right there. Bust those out. And the third thing that we're going to have to do is the rear exhaust. I see one of the mufflers is pushed out ever so slightly, so I'm going to want to push that back in, tighten that back down. Then the other thing is I might have to take the X pipe off, basically the pipe going from the header right here to the front of the mufflers. I may have to take that off and pull it out a little bit, and that pipe is sitting really close to the driver's side rear, the tunnel. There's a little bit of space there I think that we can pull out of that mid pipe. And like seriously, it's gonna be a 1/4 inch, and that's all I need to push that pipe back a little bit and get it away from the driver's side. So that's pretty much the 3 things that we're going to be doing off camera. You guys have seen this car in videos for like the last 3 months, and I kind of want to move on to other things. And so yeah, that is pretty much going to be it for today's video. I think I've been working on this video for like 6 weeks. We did the nut and bolt check, all the other modifications we installed, the motor mounts, the tow hook. I think there's something else that we've done in this video, and yeah, so. And if you guys like today's video, make sure you hit that like button. If you want to see more updates for the Corvette and how we do at the Indiana race, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications. If you guys want to help support the channel, check out all the links down below. Try to have links to everything that we've used. We've done a number of projects in this video, so we'll include what links that we can. And also make sure you check our website, BonecrrusherSS.com. And like we just mentioned, we'll have that new Corvette merch down on our website. And that'll be about it. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.